In this video, we're going to take a look at some ads from the Senate race in Nebraska. I've gotten requests for other states. I'll try to take a look at it if the candidates have enough ads on their YouTube channels and if the race is not expected to be a landslide. But today it's going to be incumbent Republican Deb Fischer against independent challenger Dan Osborn. It looks like Fischer is having to take this race a little bit more seriously. So she's starting to put out some ads, but we're going to get started here on the Dan Osborn side. So let's dive right into it and see what he's got to say.
Career politician Deb Fischer pledged to retire after 2 terms. Fischer lied. Fischer promised to cut the deficit. The Republican Party says Fischer lied again. Now she's lying about Dan Osborn. Dan Osborn, veteran, independent, a mechanic who actually works for a living. The transnational corporations can't buy him, so they're trying to destroy him. Who do you trust, the career politician or the Navy vet taking them all on?
I'm Dan Osborn, and I approve this message.
Alright, not a bad opener there from Osborn. It's got the scary narration to paint Fischer as a villain. It says she lied about some stuff, including serving only 2 terms in the Senate. That I think happens frequently. It's easy to say you're only going to serve 2 terms at the beginning, but then after 12 years, maybe people will just forget about it. But that's common. I don't think it's a big deal. Saying she's a career politician, I think is going to land better. And then he says he's a mechanic, he can't be bought, he's working for you. That stuff I think is going to have some kind of an impact. So that is an effective contrast there with Fischer. Let's go on to Fischer's first ad. Let's get started.
How liberal is Dan Osborn? Get this, you worked for your Social Security, but Osborn would give those benefits away to illegal immigrants. It's a slap in the face to seniors. Social Security benefits for illegals? Dan Osborn is so far left, he's not right for Nebraska. Deb Fischer fights for us. She stood with Trump to secure our border and protect Social Security. President Trump endorsed. Deb Fischer for Senate.
I'm Deb Fischer, and I approve this message.
Alright, so this is a red enough state where Fischer really just has to get her base to turn out and not lose a ton of Republicans and independents. So she doesn't have to shy away from Trump. She's going to have to say that Osborn is not a good fit and that he's essentially a Democrat. Now in this she says that he's too far left. Then she talks about Social Security benefits for illegal immigrants. I don't know if labeling him as far left is the right way to go, but on the issue of immigration, I'm mostly just trying to gauge the effectiveness. I don't think the casual voter is going to have time to verify all of their positions on the specific issues. But again, it's a red state. That's an issue that's going to benefit Fischer and the Republicans. I think this ad is okay. It's probably just a little bit worse than the Osborn ad, but she does an okay job herself of contrasting herself with Osborn. Let's move on to ad number 2 from Osborn. Let's fire it up.
If you're big, Deb Fischer is open for business.
If you're a big corporation,
Big pharma,
big ag,
a billionaire.
she takes their big money and just does what they want.
But if you're a Nebraskan, Deb Fischer is closed for business.
No public town hall in years.
Got 10 times richer while in Washington.
Broker pledge on term limits, the border, the deficit. So yeah, this independent
And this Republican
are with Dan Osborn.
Alright, so we got a couple there. It looks like they're in the diner setting. And when you're in politics, apparently you can never go wrong with a diner. Somehow that's supposed to be the most relatable thing to the average voter. So it looks like there's an independent and a Republican. That's going to be key for Osborn. This is a state with a lot of Republicans. He's going to need to get some crossover vote. But that's also common for politicians on every side. They love to showcase any support that's not from their own party. Now they go on to talk about how Fischer supports all these big industries, big corporations, etc. I think that would be effective for enough voters. They say that she hasn't done a town hall in years. If that's true, that's obviously terrible. They say she's gotten richer while in Washington. That sounds bad on the surface. However, I think that's pretty typical for almost any DC politician. But I'm going to say this is also a decent ad. Let's see what Deb Fischer has in store for her second ad. Let's start it up.
I raised my family on a cattle ranch like this. I'm Deb Fischer. For me, this is home. But our land is being threatened inside and out. And that's why I'm leading the fight to stop China from buying our farmland and spying on Americans. And why I'm fighting to secure the border, build the wall, and keep criminal illegals out. I'm Deb Fischer, and I approve this message for your family and our Nebraska home.
Alright, so this is just pure Fischer right here. It's her, it's the camera, and it's some shots to reinforce what she's talking about. You gotta love the slow motion nods of a politician talking to one of their constituents. But anyway, this is more of a one-on-one conversation with Fischer. Makes you kind of feel like you're getting to know her a little bit better. She talks about China, farmland, and spying. I'd say that's probably a win with the vast majority of voters. She talks about securing the border. Again, that's going to be another win. For the average voter, I don't think there's really anything too objectionable here. She's got the casual pose there. She's just leaning on a fence. What can I tell you? This is another ad that is probably going to get the job done. Let's do the final ad from Dan Osborn. Here it is.
33. That's how many 16-hour Sunday shifts I picked up my last year at the factory. It's what I had to do to provide for my family. But that meant not seeing them. I know my story is not unique, but it's not one that's reflected in Washington. It shouldn't be this hard. All across Nebraska, people aren't getting a fair shake. Nebraska families deserve lower costs, higher wages, a safe border, streets. I'm Dan Osborn, and I approve this message.
Okay, so we've got some more Osborn here. He's in a shop, he's telling you how hard of a worker he is and how he's had to sacrifice for his family. That's relatable, it's gonna work. Now, he's not the most charismatic guy, but I don't think that's what he's going for. He's just trying to come off as a more working class type of everyman. So he touches on his family, he touches on high prices, crime, higher wages, even if they're just slogans. That's all inoffensive, you really can't go wrong with those types of issues. He's even just standing out there in the middle of the street. So I'm gonna say this is Dan Osborn's best ad. So let's finish it out with ad number 3 from Deb Fischer.
A Democrat in disguise. Dan Osborn says he loves Bernie Sanders. Take a listen.
Yeah, I love Bernie.
No surprise, Dan Osborn supports Bernie Sanders' socialist health care plan, forcing 62 rural Nebraska hospitals to close. 62. Osborn wants a government takeover of health care, and he'd be the 51st vote to make it happen. He's a Bernie bro, not an average Joe. Don't let Dan Osborn fool you.
I'm Deb Fischer, and I approve this message.
Alright, I'm not sure how much Osborn actually supports Bernie. The audio clip that they played was very hard to understand, and I don't know the context. Healthcare is a huge topic, and I think more voters do want it expanded. Of course, not at the expense of having rural hospitals have to close, but who knows what's really going on there in the details. So it's more of painting Osborn as too far to the left. This time they tie him to Bernie. I don't know how much that's going to land. Scare tactics happen in pretty much every race on all sides. Many times I do think it will move voters, so maybe that actually works in this race. I do think they would need something better than that brief, low-quality audio clip. But to me, this race is similar to what we've got going on in Maryland. That's a blue state. Larry Hogan, the Republican, he probably could have ran as an independent. And given how blue it is, the Democrat in that race really just has to say that if Hogan were to win, that would give Republicans another seat in the Senate, and they would grind all their progress to a halt. I'd say that's similar to what Fischer should go for if she's trying to scare some voters away from Osborn. Even though he's technically an independent, this is the only chance Democrats have in this race. So she should say that if Osborn were to win, then the Republican agenda would grind to a halt. She sort of dances around it by saying he's too far to the left. Again, who knows how effective that really is. So this ad, I think, is a little hit or miss. But overall, between these two, I'm going to say Osborn's ads are a little bit better than Fischer's. They're just going to have a little bit more relatability. But not terrible from Fischer. Of course, there's other ads out there. We can't look at all of them. But this is 3 from each side for this race in Nebraska. So let me know in the comments. Any of these ads you really like or don't like? I'm sure Democrats will love Osborn's, Republicans will like Fischer's, but let me know down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.